He had learned long ago how to read a room without looking like he was paying attention. Every sound, every movement, every pause told him something. Power had trained him that way. Years in a world where trust could get you killed had sharpened his instincts beyond normal people. Still, nothing prepared him for the feeling he got that afternoon when his eyes stopped on a woman standing near a small roadside shop. The neighborhood was old and worn out. Cracked walls, faded signs, and streets that smelled of dust and cheap fuel. He had not come here for memories. This visit was supposed to be quick. A property dispute. A man who needed reminding of old agreements. Nothing personal. Just business. Then he saw her. She was holding the hand of a little boy, while a younger child clung to her leg. Her clothes were clean but clearly old, washed too many times. Her shoulders were tense, like someone used to carrying weight all the time. She spoke softly to the shopkeeper, counting coins in her palm, embarrassed when one fell to the ground. At first, he thought it was nothing, just another tired face in a tired place. But something pulled at him, a look in her eyes, the way she tilted her head when she spoke. It felt familiar in a way he could not explain. He froze. The guard behind him noticed his pause, but said nothing. They were trained not to ask questions. She turned slightly, and for a moment their eyes met. Time did something strange. The noise of the street faded. The cars, the shouting, the honking horns all slipped away. What remained was a memory buried so deep, he convinced himself it was gone forever. A dirt road, bare feet, laughter echoing between small houses. 2 children running, without fear of tomorrow. He knew her. Not the woman she had become, but the girl she once was. His chest tightened in a way that made him uncomfortable. He was not used to feelings sneaking up on him like this. Fear, anger, control, those he understood. This was different. This was old. She did not recognize him. Not yet. How could she? The boy she once knew had disappeared decades ago. The man standing in front of her wore expensive clothes, moved with authority, and carried a presence that made people step aside without thinking. His face was harder now, his eyes colder. Life had shaped him into someone unrecognizable. He turned away before she could study him more closely, but his mind refused to move on. As he finished his business nearby, his attention kept drifting back to the shop. He watched in the corner of his eye as she paid for a small bag of rice and a few vegetables. Nothing extra. No treats for the children. Just the basics. The boy asked for something from the shelf. She shook her head gently, forcing a smile. The boy nodded, pretending it did not matter, but the man watching felt something twist inside him. That night, he could not sleep. His world was built on control. Every detail of his life was managed. Who he met, where he went, what he allowed himself to feel. Yet one accidental meeting had cracked open a door he thought was sealed forever. Memories came without permission. He remembered sitting on a broken step beside her as a child, sharing bread, and talking about leaving that neighborhood someday. She used to say she wanted a simple life, a small home, children who would never go hungry. He used to laugh and say he wanted more. Power, respect, a life where no one could look down on him again. Life gave them both what they asked for in the cruelest way possible. The next morning, he ordered someone to look into her life. Quietly. No pressure. No questions that would scare her. Just facts. The report came back fast. She lived nearby, in a single rented room behind a mechanic shop. The children had no father listed. She worked long hours cleaning houses and helping at a small food place at night. No criminal record. No connections. Just survival. He stared at the paper longer than necessary. 2 children. The details sat heavy in his chest. He did not tell himself why it mattered so much. He just knew it did. Later that day, he went back to the shop, this time alone. No guards. No car parked too close. He dressed simply, like someone passing through. She was there again, sweeping the front of the shop for a few extra coins. The children sat nearby, drawing shapes in the dust. He approached slowly, giving her time to notice him. She looked up, cautious but polite. "Do you need something?" she asked. Her voice was the same. Older, tired, but the same. He swallowed. For the first time in years, he was unsure of what to say. I know you, he said carefully. She frowned, studying his face. Her eyes moved across his features, searching. No, she said after a moment. I don't think so. He nodded, pretending it did not matter. We grew up near the old river road, he said, a long time ago. Her broom stopped mid-sweep. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, then shock. That place, she whispered. She looked at him again, this time more closely. Her hand trembled slightly. It can't be, she said. You left. Yes, he replied. I did. The silence between them was heavy, filled with everything that had never been said. The children watched them quietly, sensing something important. She finally spoke again, her voice low. I thought you were gone for good. So did I, he said. Neither of them smiled, because they both understood that some reunions were not meant to be happy. And standing there, in that broken neighborhood, the man who ruled through fear felt something unfamiliar settle into his bones. This meeting was not an accident, and whatever truth waited ahead would change everything. After that meeting, neither of them walked away unchanged. He told himself it was just curiosity. That was the excuse he used when he found himself passing through her street again the next day. And the day after that, he never stopped close enough to be seen. He watched from a distance, like a stranger who had no right to step closer. Her days followed a hard rhythm. She woke before sunrise. He saw her lock the door of the small room she lived in, the children still half asleep as they walked beside her. She dropped them at a neighbor's place before heading to work. Sometimes she carried a small bag of cleaning supplies. Sometimes she looked so tired it seemed like she was moving only because she had no other choice. He had seen many kinds of suffering in his life. Fear, desperation, greed. But this was different. This was quiet suffering. The kind that doesn't scream for attention. One evening, he saw her return late, her steps slow, her shoulders slumped. The children ran to her as soon as she appeared. She knelt down despite her exhaustion and hugged them tightly. That moment stayed with him longer than he expected. He remembered how his own childhood had ended. One bad decision, one wrong road taken. He had left that neighborhood behind without looking back. He never asked who stayed, never asked who paid the price. The next time they spoke, it was by accident. She was struggling with a broken bag outside the shop. Rice spilled onto ground. The children tried to help, their small hands gathering what they could. Before he could stop himself, he stepped forward. "Let me help," he said. She hesitated, then nodded. They worked in silence for a moment. When it was done, she thanked him politely and reached for the bag. "You don't have to do that," she said when he tried to carry it. "I know," he replied, "but I want to." She didn't argue. They walked a short distance together. The children stayed close to her, watching him with curious eyes. "You live nearby?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Just there." He nodded, pretending not to already know. For a moment, it felt almost normal, like two people who had never been separated by years of silence. She broke that feeling first. "You don't belong here anymore," she said softly. He stopped. "What makes you say that?" She looked at him, not unkindly. "Your eyes," she said. "They've seen too much." He had no answer for that. They reached her door. She took the bag from him. "Thank you," she said, "for the help." As she turned to leave, he spoke again. "How are you managing?" She paused. "We manage," she said. "That's what matters." It was not an answer, but it was the truth. That night, he ordered his people to stop digging. He didn't want reports anymore. He didn't want her life reduced to lines on paper. If he was going to understand, it had to be from her. Days passed, then weeks. They spoke more often, always in small moments. Outside the shop, on the street, never inside her home. She kept that boundary, and he respected it. She never asked what he did for a living. He never offered, but the children grew comfortable around him. The older one asked him questions, simple ones, where he came from, why he was always alone. The younger one held his hand without fear. That frightened him more than any enemy ever had. One afternoon, rain caught them by surprise. They took shelter under a weak awning. Water poured down in heavy sheets, trapping them together. She laughed quietly. I used to love rain, she said. Used to. When you're poor, she said, rain means leaks. He smiled faintly, then grew serious. You could leave this place, he said before thinking. She looked at him sharply. And go where? Somewhere better. She shook her head. There is no better without stability, she said. And stability costs money. The words were not bitter, just honest. He wanted to say more, to tell her he could change everything. But he didn't, because his world came with danger, and she had children. That night, he sat alone longer than usual. Power had always felt heavy, but now it felt useless. What was the point of controlling cities if he couldn't fix the one thing that mattered? He remembered her words as a child. I don't want power, she had said back then. I just want peace. She had stayed true to that. Even when life gave her nothing in return. A few days later, she didn't show up at the shop. Then another day passed. Something felt wrong. He asked quietly and learned she had been sick. Fever. Missed work. No pay. Without thinking, he sent money anonymously through the shopkeeper. Just enough. Nothing that would raise questions. She confronted him the next time they met. Did you do this? She asked, holding the envelope. He didn't lie. Yes. Her face tightened. I don't want charity. It's not charity, he said. It's help. There's a difference, she replied. And you cross a line. He nodded. I'm sorry. She studied him for a long moment, then sighed. I'm not angry, she said. I'm scared. Of what? Of owing anyone, she said, because owing people never ends well. Her words cut deeper than she knew, because he knew exactly what she meant. As she walked away, he realized something painful. She didn't need saving. She needed truth, and whatever truth he carried from their past was slowly rising to the surface. He could feel it. The question was not whether it would come out, but whether he was ready for what it would cost when it did. Something shifted after that conversation about the money. She was still polite, still calm, but there was distance now, a careful space she kept between them, as if reminding herself not to lean on something that might disappear. He understood why. In his world, nothing came without a price. He stopped sending help, stopped asking questions through other people. If there was going to be truth between them, it had to come slowly and honestly. One evening, he found her sitting alone on the low step outside her building. The children were inside with the neighbor. The street was quiet for once. No loud engines, no shouting, just the hum of distant traffic. She looked tired, but not the usual kind of tired. This was heavier. He approached carefully. Is everything okay? He asked. She gave a small smile that did not reach her eyes. It depends on what okay means, she said. He sat down beside her, leaving space between them. For a while, neither spoke. Then she surprised him. Do you ever think about back then? She asked. Every day, he replied before he could stop himself. She looked at him, searching his face. You left without saying goodbye, she said quietly. I know. You promised you wouldn't. The words were not angry. They were wounded. He stared at the ground. I thought leaving was the only way to survive, he said. I didn't think anyone would miss me. I did, she said. That simple sentence landed harder than any threat he had faced in his adult life. The air between them grew thick with memories. She took a slow breath. There's something I never told you, she said. His chest tightened. She clasped her hands together, as if steadying herself. The night before you left, you remember what happened? He nodded slowly. He remembered sitting by the river, talking about the future, promising to return one day with something better. She swallowed. I found out later that week that I was pregnant. The world around him seemed to tilt. He did not speak. He could not. She continued, her voice steady but soft. I tried to find you. I asked around, but you were gone. No one knew where. And I didn't have the money or the courage to chase someone who didn't want to be found. He felt like he had been punched in the chest. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You were already halfway out the door, she said. Your eyes were somewhere else. I knew if I told you, you would stay out of guilt. And I didn't want that. He closed his eyes for a moment. Which one? He asked finally, afraid of the answer. She looked toward the door where the children were inside. The older one, she said. Silence fell again, but this time it was heavier than before. His mind raced through every memory of the boy. The questions, the curious eyes, the way he had felt something strange every time the child looked at him. He felt both joy and terror at once. Joy that a part of him existed outside the life he had built. Terror that his life could destroy it. Does he know? He asked. No, she said quickly. And I don't want him to. Not yet. He nodded slowly. You should hate me, he said. She gave a small, sad smile. I did, she admitted, for a long time. And now I'm just tired of carrying it alone. Her honesty cut through him. He had built walls so high no one could climb them. Yet here she was, not attacking him, not begging, just telling the truth. I never stopped caring about you, he said quietly. I just chose a road that didn't leave room for anything else. She studied him carefully. What road? She asked. He hesitated. This was the moment he had been avoiding. I'm not a good man, he said finally. I make decisions that hurt people. I live in a world where weakness gets punished. She did not look surprised. I figured, she said gently. You're not afraid? She shook her head. I'm more afraid of poverty than I am of power, she replied. At least power has choices. He almost laughed at that, but there was no humor in it. You should be afraid for him, he said. If anyone connects him to me. That's why I never told you, she interrupted. I wanted him far from whatever life he chose. The weight of that sacrifice pressed down on him. She had raised his child alone, worked herself to exhaustion, faced judgment, faced loneliness, and she had done it without asking him for anything. I'm not asking you for money, she said firmly, as if reading his thoughts. I'm not asking you to fix my life. Then why tell me now? Because he's getting older, she said. He asked about his father. I can't lie forever. The truth of that settled between them. He imagined the boy asking questions, wanting answers, wanting identity. What do you want from me? He asked. She thought for a long moment. Honesty, she said. If you're going to be in his life, be real. Don't come and go like before. And if I can't, then walk away now, she said softly, before he gets attached. Her strength humbled him. He had faced armed rivals without blinking. Yet this choice scared him more than any confrontation, because this was not about power. It was about responsibility. A door opened behind them. The older child stepped outside, looking for her. He saw them sitting together and smiled. Are you coming in? The boy asked. She nodded. In a minute, the child looked at him. You're coming too? The question was simple, innocent, but it carried a future inside it. He looked at her. She did not answer for him. For the first time in his life, he understood what real courage required. It was not control. It was staying. I'll come in, he said quietly. The boy smiled and ran back inside. She looked at him, eyes searching for any sign of doubt. Are you sure? She asked. No, he admitted, but I'm trying. That was the most honest thing he had said in years. As they stood and walked toward the door, he felt something inside him shift. Not completely, not magically, but enough. He knew the life he had built would not let him walk away easily. There would be consequences, questions, risks, but for the first time, he saw something worth risking for. Inside that small, dimly lit room was not just a child. It was a second chance. And second chances did not come often in his world. The door closed behind them. Outside, the street remained quiet. But inside, everything had changed. Being inside her small room felt stranger than any place he had ever been. The walls were thin, the ceiling low. A single bulb lit the space with a soft yellow glow. There was no luxury, no protection, no sense of power. Yet there was warmth. Toys neatly stacked in one corner. Shoes lined carefully by the door. A pot on the stove that still held the smell of simple food. The children sat on the floor, whispering to each other, stealing glances at him. The older one tried to look brave. The younger one smiled without worry. She moved around quietly, pouring water into chipped cups. Her movements were careful, as if she was afraid of breaking the moment. He sat on a wooden chair that creaked under his weight. For once, no one was watching his back. No one was waiting for orders. This room had rules of its own. The boy asked him questions again, about the city, about places outside the neighborhood. Nothing about money, nothing about power. He answered honestly, but carefully. When the children were finally sent to sleep, the room felt even smaller. She sat across from him, hands folded. "You can't stay involved halfway," she said. "I know. My life is simple," she continued. "Hard, but simple. Your life, it feels dangerous." "It is," he admitted. "Then why are you here?" He searched for the right words. "Because walking away again would destroy me," he said. She studied his face, looking past confidence he used to hide behind. "I don't want promises," she said. "I want safety." That word followed him long after he left. Safety. In the days that followed, his world began to push back. People noticed changes. He stopped attending certain meetings. He cut short conversations that once excited him. He asked fewer questions about expansion and more about stability. That made others uneasy. One of his closest associates confronted him. "You're distracted," the man said. "That's dangerous." He said nothing. "Rumors are spreading," the man continued, "about you protecting someone in the old district." That caught his attention. He felt anger rise, not loud, but sharp. "Handle the rumors," he said calmly, quietly. "But if it's true—" "It's not your concern," he cut in. The warning was clear. Still, danger has a way of finding cracks. One evening, he noticed a familiar car parked near her street. It stayed too long. The engine idled. Panic tightened his chest. He did not approach directly. He watched from a distance until the car left. That night, he barely slept. The next morning, he went to her place early. "You need to be careful," he said as soon as she opened the door. Her face paled. "What's happening?" "My world is starting to notice," he said. "I try to keep you invisible, but nothing stays hidden forever." She took a deep breath. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm changing things." She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "Can you really change?" she asked. He did not answer right away. That night, he made a decision that would have been unthinkable just weeks earlier. He began stepping back. Not loudly, not dramatically. He passed responsibilities to others. He closed old operations. He refused deals that would bring attention. Every move cost him influence. Every refusal made someone else stronger. But every night, when he saw the children safe, the cost felt worth it. Still, the past does not let go easily. A message arrived one evening. Short, clear. Someone wanted to meet. Someone who knew too much. He went alone. The conversation was calm, but the meaning was sharp. "You've changed," the man said. "That makes you weak." "I've changed," he replied. "That makes me careful." The man smiled. "Careful men lose power. Or they learn what matters," he said. The meeting ended without threats, which worried him more. Days later, she noticed the tension in him. "You're carrying something heavy," she said. "I always have," he replied. "This is different." He sighed. "I might have to leave for a while," he said, "just until things settle." Her expression tightened. "Is that another way of walking away?" "No," he said quickly. "It's the opposite. It's to make sure they stay safe." She nodded slowly, but pain showed in her eyes. "I won't stop you," she said. "But don't disappear without a word." He promised. The night before he left, the older child sat beside him. "You're coming back, right?" the boy asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes," he said. "I am." The boy smiled, trusting him without hesitation. That trust felt heavier than any responsibility he had ever carried. As he stepped outside, he looked back at the building. For years, he had believed power was about control. Now, he understood something different. Power meant knowing when to let go, and knowing when to protect. The road ahead was uncertain. Enemies would not disappear. Consequences would come. But for the first time, he was not running toward power. He was walking toward something real. and that scared him more than anything else ever had. When he left that night, he did not know how long he would be gone. He only knew one thing clearly. If he wanted them safe, he had to finish what he started years ago. For most of his life, he believed power was something you built and protected at any cost. Now he understood something different. Some things were more important than control. Some people mattered more than reputation. The days away from them felt longer than any trip he had taken before. He moved carefully, closed unfinished business, handed over responsibilities, settled old disputes without creating new ones. He avoided attention, avoided conflict. For the first time, he was not trying to expand his influence. He was shrinking it. That made others uneasy. Whispers grew louder. Questions followed him into every room. But he stayed calm. He had spent years building a system that could survive without him. Now he was testing it. Late one evening, he received confirmation that certain rivals had shifted their focus elsewhere. Interest in him had cooled. He was no longer seen as aggressively active. That was exactly what he wanted. Still, walking away completely was not simple. There were legal businesses tied to his name, investments that required attention, people who depended on his decisions. He could not vanish overnight without creating chaos. So, he did something unexpected. He began transferring ownership quietly, step by step, piece by piece. Some assets went to trusted partners. Some were dissolved. Some were redirected into foundations and community projects under different management. It took months. During that time, he did not see her or the children. That was the hardest part. He wanted to call, to check on them, to hear the boy's voice asking simple questions. But distance was protection. When he finally returned to the neighborhood, he did not come in a convoy. There were no guards, no expensive car waiting outside. He walked the last few streets alone. The building looked the same. Paint peeling, windows cracked, laundry hanging from thin wires. But when she opened the door and saw him standing there, something changed in her expression. Relief. "You came back," she said softly. "I said I would." The children ran toward him without hesitation. The older one hugged him tightly, as if afraid he might disappear again. That simple hug nearly broke him. Inside, the room felt warmer than before. She watched him carefully. "You look different," she said. "I am," he replied. They sat down after the children went to play. "I've stepped away," he told her. "From everything? From the parts that bring danger," he said. "It won't erase my past, but it changes the future." She searched his face, looking for doubt. "Why?" she asked. He didn't hesitate this time. "Because I don't want him growing up hiding from my shadow," he said. "And I don't want you living in fear because of me." Tears filled her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes," he said gently. "I did." Over the next weeks, small changes began to happen. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would attract attention. He helped her move to a safer apartment in a quieter area, but the lease was in her name. The job he arranged for her came through someone she trusted, not through him directly. The children were enrolled in a better school, but without special treatment. He was careful. He wanted stability, not dependence. One evening, the older child sat beside him on a park bench. "Mom says you're busy." The boy said, "Not too busy for you," he replied. The child looked at him thoughtfully. "Are you my father?" he asked. The question came calmly, not dramatic, just honest curiosity. He felt the world slow again. He looked at her across the park. She was watching, giving him space to answer. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am." The boy nodded, as if confirming something he already suspected. "Why weren't you here before?" He could have blamed circumstances, could have blamed the past. Instead, he chose the truth. "I made mistakes," he said. "Big ones. But I'm here now." The boy considered that. "Are you staying?" "Yes," he said. "If you'll have me." The child smiled. "That's good," he replied simply. No anger, no resentment, just acceptance. That forgiveness humbled him more than punishment ever could. Life did not suddenly become perfect. There were still moments of tension. People from his old world occasionally tried to reach out. Some resented his withdrawal. Others tested his boundaries, but he remained firm. He refused invitations that once excited him, refused to return to old habits. He kept his distance from anything that could pull him back. For the first time, his days were quiet. He attended school meetings, helped with homework, sat at a small kitchen table that barely fit all four of them. He learned the rhythm of normal life, and it terrified him in a different way. Because normal life has no bodyguards, no backup plans. It only has trust. One night, as they sat together after dinner, she looked at him with a soft expression. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Regret what?" "Leaving that life behind." He thought carefully. "I regret the years I lost," he said, "but not the choice I made." She nodded slowly. "I don't need you to be powerful," she said. "I just need you present." That sentence stayed with him. Present. It sounded simple. But for a man who had spent his life running toward power and away from emotion, it was the hardest role he had ever taken on. Months later, he walked past the old neighborhood again. This time, there was no business waiting, no enemies watching, just memories. He stood by the roadside shop where he had first seen her again. He realized something quietly. The most shocking thing she had revealed was not just a child. It was the fact that he still had the ability to choose differently, to step out of darkness, to build something that did not rely on fear. As he walked back toward his new life, he understood that redemption is not loud. It does not come with applause. It comes with small daily decisions. Showing up, telling the truth, protecting without controlling, loving without owning. He had once ruled through silence and intimidation. Now he measured his strength by something else entirely. The sound of laughter inside a small apartment, the trust in a child's eyes, and the quiet peace of knowing he had finally chosen the right road, not because it was easy, but because it was real.